Well, hello there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden, and in this episode, we're going to be kicking the corpse of the Wicked Witch who just had the house fall on her, Nina Jankowicz. We're going to be going over some great journalism, a great article that came out today by Kit Klarenberg. He's just raking. If you guys know anything about Kit, I've showcased his work twice at least on this show here. Particularly noteworthy was his article that he wrote last year exposing Abigail Thorne and BreadTube. Abigail Thorne is a YouTuber of some notoriety in the UK, talks politics, and her links to the UK deep state and how she was basically astroturfed by UK intelligence. And it was a great article, and methinks we will, with further journalism, good journalism like this, we will find out that there are plenty of YouTube creators in this country who are astroturfed in one way or another by the deep state. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I don't want to name names and speculate, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. So this is another great article talking about Nina Jankowicz's shady past and how not only was she part of StopFake, which we talked about in a previous episode, that's the Facebook fact checker, and she was on StopFake, the host of StopFake, whitewashing the Azov Battalion and C-14, among other Nazi groups in the Ukraine. And in her past, she has been, a stooge for running with the Steele dossier as being legit, so she's a serial Russiagator. But this article in particular is talking about how she's tied to, again, the deep state through a think tank and a PsyOp called the OIP, which is referring to the, I don't want to mess it up here, the Open Information Partnership, which is part of British intelligence. So it's interesting. I'm going to read to you here from Kit Klarenberg's Mint Press News article, and we'll read about half of it here, and I highly recommend you actually read the whole article for yourself. Kit's been on a tear lately. He's got another article in the Gray Zone talking about Priti Patel, the Home Secretary of the UK, and her connections to the UK deep state as well. I'm going to put that one on Rockfin. It's another great article. I can't talk about it because I have to mention Julian Assange. And once I start talking about Julian Assange on YouTube, I get my channel taken down. What a free country, free of censorship we live in, don't we? So anyway, this is from today or yesterday. Last 24 hours this came out. From UK troll farms to covert psyops, the troubling past of Nina Jankowicz by Kit Klarenberg. The Washington Post revealed Wednesday that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's highly controversial Disinformation Governance Board, launched with much fanfare just 3 weeks earlier, was to close, and that its director, Nina Jankowicz, former fellow at the quasi-state Wilson Center think tank and Ukrainian Foreign Ministry communications advisor, had resigned. Which, if I may make a joke, that means they didn't even last as long as CNN Plus. CNN Plus lasted, like a month? So apparently the people don't really like the fact that this propaganda apparatus across the globe, but particularly in the U.S., is trying to censor all of the truth tellers and then spoon-feed you bullshit and tell you that it's truth. So they're floundering, we're fighting back, and this OIP that we're about to talk about, this network of propaganda that she's related to, PFC and the idea of an independent news network that I've been talking about for over a year on this channel, is like the anti-OIP. It is the nemesis, the thing that can combat this the most effectively, in my opinion. Let's just keep going here. The exclusive report, authored by Taylor Lorenz, went to enormous efforts to frame the board's dissolution as resulting from egregious sabotage by right-wing activists who engaged in coordinated online attacks on its well-known, well-regarded chief, subjecting her to quote-unquote unrelenting barrage of harassment, which served to derail the Biden administration's benevolent efforts to tackle the urgent and important issue of disinformation. Yeah, because the press secretary and everything that comes out of every Democrat that is in power's mouth is the truth, right? No, they're 100% lying to you, and they're mad when people are exposing their lies, and that's what the Ministry of Truth was designed for, and they're mad that the people are rejecting it because they don't want the people that are telling them truth about what Jen Psaki's lying about to be censored off the internet. Again, I digress. In reality, public backlash against the board, which erupted immediately following its official launch on April 27th, was wide-ranging and anything but partisan or personal. Prominent rights groups and lawmakers expressed grave concerns about its constitutionality and the obvious risk of it serving as a state censorship mechanism, with many comparisons drawn to the infamous Ministry of Truth conjured by George Orwell in 1984. Many legitimate, vital criticisms of Jankowicz were also raised, including her history of slandering independent news outlets, such as the Grey Zone, as Russian disinformation, frenzied attacks on WikiLeaks and its imprisoned founder, Julian Assange, which, if you guys remember, she called Julian Assange and WikiLeaks scum. Now, WikiLeaks has never had to retract anything because they tell so much truth. So that tells you exactly what you need to know about this Minister of Truth. She's calling the truth tellers, who have never had to retract anything, she's calling them scum. Anyway. And she also had enthusiastic advocacy on behalf of former MI6 spy Christopher Steele, author of the utterly discredited Trump-Russia dossier that produced countless wholly fictitious stories in the mainstream media, many of which have since been significantly rowed back or retracted outright. While in Kiev, Jankowicz hosted a YouTube channel of UK and US government-funded fact-checkers StopFake, which has endlessly whitewashed the issue of widespread fascism in Ukraine. Jankowicz herself is directly implicated in this shameful, misleading output. In 2017 January, she presented an on-camera report extolling the virtues of 4 national paramilitary units, including the openly neo-Nazi Azov Battalion, linked to serious human rights abuses and brutal war crimes. And I went over that article as well recently, and she also whitewashed what C-14 is doing and 2 other Nazi units, and C-14 is basically like a rogue gang that has been turned into more or less like an SS. Sounds like the right people to be whitewashing, if you're the Minister of Truth in America, that is. Again. Lorenz's friendship with Jankowicz, by the way, is it any surprise that those two are friends? They seem like they might be best pals in real life. If I met them and they were walking next to each other, I wouldn't be able to tell which one's which, especially if I listened to them talk. Just saying. Lorenz's friendship with Jankowicz notwithstanding, it's rather extraordinary that one of America's leading newspapers, which in 2017 adopted the slogan, "Democracy dies in darkness," inspired by famous quotes in defense of the First Amendment and condemning official secrecy, is lamenting the demise of a shadowy government unit concerned with determining what constitutes quote-unquote fake news, let alone was so enthusiastically supportive of such an entity's existence in the first place. That's exactly right, Kit. That's exactly right. Intentionally false and defamatory. Despite Jankowicz's professional activities and public statements providing such ample fodder to critics, even her most vocal detractors overlooked her resume's most troubling aspect, namely that she serves on the advisory board of Open Information Partnership, OIP, a British Foreign Office psychological warfare operation. Details on when its role began and what it entails, and the remuneration she receives, if any, aren't clear. It is also a position that has been barely promoted, the only public reference to it online today being contained in Jankowicz's Pulitzer Center biography. Then again, rather ironically given the organization's name, OIP is itself markedly opaque. And there's a picture of it here. You can check on it for yourself. OIP's Spartan official website sparingly styles the endeavor as a quote-unquote diverse network of investigative journalists, charities, think tanks, academics, NGOs, activists, and fact-checkers active in over 20 countries, which since February 2019 has been standing firm against the rising tide of disinformation in the news, on social media, and across our public discourse, which we believe to be an existential threat to democracy. So again, PFC, what we're doing here, the bonds we're building here, and the fact that we are going to be decentralized and really creating little hubs, little networks like MCSC, INN, Revolutionary Blackout, etc., and all of us working behind the scenes but not working for one another, is an apparatus that fights things like the OIP. It is the only thing, in my opinion, that can fight the OIP and different cutouts of it. And this is in the UK, but you know what's going on in the US too. That's why we have to be hyper vigilant. We have to follow the rules and not sell out, and work with each other behind the scenes, not tear each other down. But if we smell a rat, which we're going to have to count on our ability to sniff out narcs, and we trash them and destroy them and kick them out, that's also going to be important because they're going to try to infiltrate us as well. So this is my attempt at trying to promote something that can fight something like this. That's what PFC is. It's just an idea. It's not a contract. Nobody makes any money off of it. We just agree as an independent media news network of commentators, writers, journalists, content creators to fight against networks like this, which are essentially like propaganda apparatus. Little further elucidation of OIP's activities and objectives is offered, but its founding partners provide cause for concern. They include NATO propaganda offshoot, the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, and Zinc Network, a British communications agency managing covert PsyOps campaigns, many explicitly targeting Muslims, the world over. A variety of clients, including the UK Home Office, US intelligence cutout, USAID, and the Pentagon. Controversial US and UK government-funded investigative website Bellingcat, a prominent disseminator, amplifier, and validator of Western national security propaganda, which counts numerous individuals with military and intelligence backgrounds among its contributors, was also one of the OIP's founders, training journalists overseas under its auspices for 2 years from launch. If those names aren't sufficient to raise significant suspicions about OIP, the effort's sinister true nature is amply underlined by a trove of leaked Foreign Office documents reviewed by Mint Press News. Those incriminating papers reveal that the OIP is the flagship component of a wider cloak and dagger effort to, quote-unquote, weaken the Russian state influence in Moscow's near abroad. The constellation of countries comprising the former Soviet Union, Warsaw Pact, and Yugoslavia bankrolled to the tune of over $100 million by London from 2017 onwards. OIP alone received a tenth of that total in its first 2 years of operation to, quote-unquote, use audience-centric communications to undermine the credibility of disinformation sources for specific target audiences in the region and construct a, quote-unquote, diverse network referred to on the organization's website. There's another screenshot here if you want to check it out for yourself. Members of this nexus are provided training in, quote-unquote, best practice in exposing and countering disinformation across a range of disciplines from open source research through to viral video production and digital targeting, as well as cybersecurity, libel, and data compliance. Participating entities then increase the pace, scale, and quantity of their output and more optimally target audiences vulnerable to Russian propaganda in tandem via, quote-unquote, campaign co-creation, linking the organizations across borders. Which all be well and good, except for the leaked files make abundantly clear that OIP isn't actually concerned with countering fake news at all, but it is in reality energized by a desire to conceal facts and bothersome perspectives the British state doesn't want the public domain via manipulation, distortion, and lies. Take, for instance, the following passage in one document which laments without irony that one of the key barriers to combating Russian disinformation is that, quote, certain Kremlin-backed narratives are factually true. Responding to inconvenient truths, as opposed to pure propaganda, is naturally more problematic, the file explained. Damn. So they're not for really fighting disinformation, they're just for labeling correct information, Russian disinformation, so that people won't listen to them, or they have a leg to stand on when it comes to censoring these good outlets, these actual journalists. This is how the censorship apocalypse is being ushered in, guys. Russian red scaring, McCarthyism run with by terrible networks like TYT, who are either useful idiots or straight up bread tube being paid to say the things that they say, smearing people that are doing good journalism and calling them Russian hacks or Russian spies. That's how censorship gets started, and it's in overdrive right now. And it's made all the worse by the fact that we've got the Ukraine war going on right now, so these think tanks and their associated video content creators are now doing everything they can to smear people that are exposing what the US and the UK intelligence and deep state are up to, and the propaganda that they're trying to spread about things like the Ukraine war. But again, I digress. Consider, too, the foot soldiers deployed by the OIP, to respond to such inconvenient truths. One leaked file offers appraisals of 56 organizations identified by the Foreign Office as potential network members, including OIP founder Bellingcat. Elliot Higgins, much venerated crack squad of laptop jockeys, was judged to be, quote-unquote, somewhat discredited, both by spreading disinformation and by being willing to produce reports for anyone willing to pay. Well, at least we agree on something. Bellingcat is very much discredited. They are a propaganda mercenary. So is Elliot Higgins. Even harsher words were reserved for Tallinn-based fact-checker PsyOp, which was found to have, quote-unquote, ties to both Estonian government and neo-fascist groups. Quote-unquote, PsyOp has been involved in inciting violence against Estonia's Russian minority, the appraisal damningly ruled. Its reporting is widely considered to lack credibility, and they have published a number of intentionally false and defamatory articles about Russian media outlets. Meanwhile, prospective network member International Center for Defense and Security was found to be, quote-unquote, funded by and politically linked to the Estonian state, specifically the Ministry of Defense, giving the appearance of independence without actually being so. Quote, it is more respectable than PsyOp and is not linked to the far right, though it reflects a hawkish nationalism of the Estonian government, its appraisal concluded. Despite these condemnations, both organizations, among many other mooted members about which significant reservations were privately raised, became part of OIP's network, granting them Foreign Office financing, support, and promotion, and ostensibly placing their output and operations under the guidance of Nina Jankowicz, who's on the advisory board, remember. Last part here, and then we'll let you guys read the rest of the article for yourself. This is called Russian Interference. Given this composition, it was perhaps unsurprisingly well understood that internationally that OIP being interpreted as a UK-sponsored disinformation or troll factory was a significant risk. To mitigate this hazard, Zinc Network pledged to, quote-unquote, position the project externally as being within the established and accepted sector of media development and pluralism and fact-checking. So we already knew that was going on. They don't want to be called a troll farm or a propaganda factory, so they call themselves fact-checkers, and that's what they run with. Their label is only given to them by themselves. Nobody actually thinks these people are looking for facts. They just call themselves fact-checkers when all they do is go out and look for truth and call it disinformation and then lie to everybody else about everything else. The leaked documents contain numerous troubling examples of OIP at work. For example, in Ukraine, it trained 12 online influencers to, quote-unquote, counter Kremlin-backed messaging through innovative editorial strategies, audience segmentation, and production models, helping their compelling content to reach millions of people. In Russia and Central Asia, a network of YouTubers was secretly paid to create videos promoting democratic values. Project communications were carefully concealed to ensure the network's existence, and London's role in managing it was kept confidential. Meanwhile, in the Baltic states, online personalities received unadvertised, quote, personal brand strategy informed by individual target audience analysis, growth strategies for their chosen social media platform, and digital marketing and campaign training. Quite clearly, far from fostering independent citizen journalism, these initiatives were pure astroturfing, the creation of a hand-picked clandestine nexus of effective British agents helped by the OIP to generate slick propaganda, reading scripts effectively prepared by the Foreign Office, which was then amplified globally by the organization's network members. There are obvious echoes of this in the U.S. National Security Council, giving direct briefings to TikTok stars on Washington's strategic goals in the Ukraine conflict, which you guys remember that. It was hilarious to watch those people that don't know a fucking thing about politics try to run with the, the national security state, the State Department's CIA narrative when they don't know a fucking thing about Ukraine. It was hilarious. You could tell it's like they handed them like a sheet with like 5 bullet points on it, and they're like, here you go, you 18-year-old TikToker who knows nothing about politics and basically got famous for doing stuff outside of politics. We're going to have you pretend like you know about politics, and you're going to repeat all of these things that we just told you, and you're helping your country. Trust me. And then those yokels went out there and just embarrassed themselves, showing that they don't know shit. So, yeah, that if they're going to try to do it in the U.S., they're going to have better luck, I think, with throwing those same talking points at people like, I'm not going to name names, the United States bread tubers. You know exactly who I'm talking about. And that's why you often see a lot of these people that match up with the CIA propaganda that say the CIA is a good thing. They're a force for good. They all echo the same talking points about Ukraine. It's because more or less they're kind of being fed the same talking points. They all work for the same people. We know who they are, and we have to continue to sniff them out. Lastly here, underlining this interpretation further, Zinc Network boasts of maintaining its influencer networks over extended periods of time, enabling us to deliver both long-term strategic messaging to audiences, but also to conduct multi-layered rapid response communications following key events. One such key event cited was the April 2018 protest in Moscow against restrictions on the use of messaging app Telegram. Zinc was able to activate a range of content within 12 hours of the demonstration beginning. It's almost inconceivable that at least some of this output didn't worm its way into the Western media, which gave the upheaval almost blanket coverage. If so, domestic audiences would have been totally unaware that it was in fact funded and co-produced by London. Still, that's an open question, as is the extent to which OIP has influenced the outcome of elections, quote, taking place in countries of particular interest to the Foreign Office. One of the organization's key objectives. Network members are trained in identifying key trends and flashpoints in activity or narratives during campaigns and to intensify their propaganda output as polling day nears. So basically, we know that OIP, they are a propaganda network, similar to what we're trying to send up as a independent news network, which we're building right now, except for they all get the same talking points given to them from up on high, and Nina Jankowicz is on their advisory board, which is just another thing to add to the laundry list of embarrassing things that should never be on the resume of the Minister of Truth, who claims that she's going to be fighting disinformation, when in fact this is a disinformation apparatus. And what we're building here, as long as we don't sell out and we don't start working for each other and spread out the content over thousands of channels and always be hyper vigilant to call out propaganda as it's happening in real time and spread the message very quickly, that apparatus will destroy this apparatus. Why? Because there's always going to be more of us than there are of them. And what I think is going to happen here, guys, I've said this for over a year now, is there's two ways that the propaganda apparatus in America transitions online to social media. And the first one is that they try to move like current pundits on Fox and MSNBC and CNN online. That isn't going to work. CNN Plus is evidence that that's not going to work. Nobody's going to pay, certainly not going to pay to watch Brian Stelter and Anderson Cooper talk shit on a streaming channel. It's not going to happen. The second way that this happens is they just throw money at people who are already established online and just get them to adopt the CIA narrative. And like I said, these people are not tough to spot. They're not tough to spot. And they're capitalists, so they're looking to make money. A lot of them are lefties that got in this to make their career off of branding themselves as a socialist and an outsider, and they want money, so they're vulnerable to the deep state giving them a lot of money in exchange for, you know, running with the talking points. And it's all about how Chomsky talked about this in Manufacturing Consent and other times. It's all about the hiring process. These people probably get into the game with the right intentions, but then they get a taste of money, they become established, and then they can't turn down the offer that's given to them tongue-in-cheek from the deep state in this country. So they get corrupted as they get more popular. Again, that's the reason I wrote the rules from PFC the way that they are. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to become part of OIP. You become part of OIP, we sniff you out, we will trash you, we'll destroy your channel, we will catch you in every CIA-driven lie that you tell on your show, and we'll ridicule you into oblivion. So this is a great article. Read the rest of it. That was about half of it right there. And yeah, basically the house has dropped on the witch, just like in Wizard of Oz, and this is just me stepping on the feet of the witch that are still sticking out from under the house until they curl up and go away. Go away, witch! Piss off! So it makes me happy that she's resigned. This is a great article by Kit Clarenberg, and I will be doing another showcasing of one of his other articles on Rockfin probably tomorrow, maybe the day after. Keep fighting that good fight out there, guys. I'll talk to you later.